You probably check your bank account and wonder how anyone actually saves their first $100,000 without catching a lucky break. Most of us feel like everyone else got handed a financial playbook we never saw. It is incredibly frustrating to work 40 hours a week and still feel like you're walking on a treadmill that never stops. But people who actually build real wealth from zero don't rely on perfect stock picks or overnight internet courses. They just follow a very quiet, almost boring stack of habits over and over. When your bills take up almost everything you make, the idea of a huge net worth just feels like fake math. You might assume you just need a better job or a sudden market boom. But building that foundation really comes down to 5 steps that anyone can stack up over time. If you run through all 5 layers, you put a hard mathematical floor under your life. Your first $100,000 stops being a daydream and turns into a real date on a calendar. Step 1. Find your daily target number. The very first piece of that stack is just nailing down your exact target number. Without a number, you're just throwing spare change into a bucket and hoping for the best. Let's say your brain locks onto that 100K mark and you want to push yourself to hit it in exactly 12 months. You have to figure out exactly what 1 hour of your life is worth to make that math work. Prominent goal-setting research led by Dr. Gail Matthews found that you're 42% more likely to achieve a goal just by writing down a specific measurable number. We all fall into the trap of saying, we just want to save more money this year. That vague feeling usually ends up with $0 extra in the bank by December, because life always finds a way to spend loose cash. So the first move is strictly boring math to find our daily target. Making $100,000 in a single year means you need to clear $273 every single day. If you only look at the 260 normal working days in a year, that number climbs to about $384 a day. You'd have to make roughly $48 an hour during a standard 40-hour work week to pull that off. When you break a giant scary number down into an hourly rate, it suddenly feels like something you can actually wrap your head around. It stops being a mountain and turns into a daily shift. You and I both know that making $48 an hour doesn't mean you actually keep $100,000 at the end of the year. The government takes their cut, your landlord wants rent, and groceries cost a small fortune right now. Trying to save that much in 12 months usually just leads to heavy burnout. So a much healthier stretch goal is to look at a 3 to 5 year window instead. If you give yourself 3 years to hit that $100,000 mark, you need to actually keep $91 a day after every single bill is paid. Stretching that out to 5 years drops the daily target down to $55. That $55 mark is where a lot of people suddenly realize this is actually doable without starving. You might look at your own budget and map out what a 3, 4, or 5 year path actually looks like for your specific paycheck. The exact timeline always depends on what you earn and what you can comfortably hide away from yourself. A lot of people assume they just need better stock market returns to speed up that clock. They get obsessed with finding a stock that goes up 200%. But chasing wild returns usually just distracts you from the one thing you can actually control every single day. Morgan Housel spells this out perfectly in his book, The Psychology of Money. He points out that building wealth actually has very little to do with your income or your investment returns, and almost everything to do with your savings rate. Nobody on Wall Street or in the crypto chat rooms wants you to hear that. They want you trading every day because that makes them money. We naturally worry that we aren't smart enough investors to get rich. We think we need a finance degree to make our money grow. But the plain math is shockingly simple and totally ignores how smart you are. Let's say you save and invest roughly $15,000 a year, and you get a conservative 4.5% return on that money. After 6 years, you'd be sitting on right about $105,000. Here is the part that completely shifts how you see wealth. Out of that balance, roughly 86% of it came directly from the raw cash you saved. Only about 14% of that entire pile came from your investment returns. The heavy lifting comes from the boring habit of saving, not the exciting thrill of the market. You don't have to be a genius. You just have to be consistent. Even if you turn out to be a fantastic investor pulling down 10% a year, the story barely changes. You'd hit your $100,000 goal in 5 years instead of 6, but your own savings still make up about 77% of that total. Let's push it to a completely crazy extreme just to prove the point. Imagine you invest $10,000 a year and somehow manage a 20% return every single year. That's a massive number. That's basically what Warren Buffett did over long stretches of his career. Most of us will never see a 20% average return, but even in this dream scenario, it still takes about 5 years to reach $100,000. And out of that total, a full 60% is still just your original savings, while 40% comes from those incredible returns. The totally unsexy truth is that hitting your first 100K is almost entirely a savings game. It isn't an investing game. It doesn't matter if you hit the jackpot with market returns. Most of the money always comes straight from what you kept out of your own paycheck. When you realize that, it actually takes a lot of the pressure off. You don't have to beat the stock market. You just have to beat your own spending habits. You want to figure out your target number, work backward to find your timeline, and put that daily or weekly goal somewhere you actually have to look at it every day. Step 2, become hard to replace. Once that number is locked in, you hit the second layer of the stack. You have to become really hard to replace. This is the clearest path to making more money. If you want to pull in $273 a day to fund your goals, you need a skill that forces people to pay you that rate. The anxiety right now is totally real. A lot of folks worry that artificial intelligence will just swallow their jobs whole. AI can already handle a lot of the basic tasks humans do, and it does them faster. Standing out in the middle of this tech boom feels like shouting into a hurricane. But this is exactly where true specialized value steps in. Let's say you look at a top-tier brain surgeon. There are plenty of great general doctors and nurses doing amazing work, and they make a solid living. But the one person pulling in a massive paycheck is the brain surgeon. You can swap out one general doctor for another and get similar care. But when someone needs brain surgery, the options shrink to a tiny handful of people. You certainly don't need to go to medical school for a decade to hit a big net worth. Nobody is saying you have to become a surgeon to break $100,000, but that surgeon proves a rule you can use anywhere. If you build a skill that AI or a random guy off the street can't easily copy, you naturally pull in more money. When you have a rare skill, you stop begging for raises and start setting your own rates. Look at hands-on trade skills right now. A robot can't crawl under your house to fix a broken pipe. AI can't rewire an old electrical panel or repair a freezing air conditioner in the middle of July. Electricians, plumbers, and HVAC techs carry skills that are deeply protected against the AI wave. They solve physical, messy problems that require human hands and real-world logic. As more people rush into digital office jobs, the folks who actually fix our physical world are commanding a massive premium. They are hard to replace, so they get paid exactly what they ask for. It shows you that true job security isn't about working for a big safe company. It's about holding a skill the market desperately needs but struggles to find. You can also find AI-proof skills sitting right inside a normal office setting. Clear, human-sounding writing is becoming incredibly rare. Almost everyone right now leans on ChatGPT to write their emails, reports, and marketing copy. Because of that, everything you read at work is starting to sound exactly the same. It feels hollow, robotic, and completely stripped of any real personality. You aren't going crazy if you feel like you're reading emails written by a blender. The system uses the exact same repetitive phrases over and over. That sea of robotic text actually creates a huge opportunity for you. Real human connection, original ideas, and a unique perspective stand out immediately. Individuality used to just be a nice bonus at work. Now it's a deeply scarce resource. If you can communicate complex ideas in a way that actually sounds like a smart friend talking, people will pay attention. They will trust you more than the guy sending out bland AI summaries. So look closely at the skills you already enjoy building. Ask yourself honestly if a computer program could do it better tomorrow. If a computer can't do your job, the next question is whether a brand new hire could do it just as well. You want to corner a skill that takes real time and unique insight to build. It all boils down to basic supply and demand. When you hold a skill with low supply and high demand, employers literally have to compete to keep you around. That extra income gives you the fuel to hit your savings goals so much faster. Step 3, stop the cash bleed and the 24-hour rule. This directly ties into the third layer of the stack. We just covered how to bring more cash in, but the flip side is keeping that cash from bleeding out. Every single dollar you stop yourself from spending is a dollar that instantly jumps over to your $100,000 target. When you don't buy something, you buy yourself speed instead. Cutting back feels terrible when you think of it as a punishment. It feels like you're just depriving yourself of fun. But when you tie those unspent dollars directly to your exit plan, saying no to buying something actually feels like a win. To make this really practical, the best tool to use is the 24-hour rule. You can completely stop your money from disappearing on random Tuesday afternoons just by using the 24-hour rule. Anytime you want to buy something non-essential that costs more than $100, you force yourself to wait a full 24 hours before checking out. That $100 limit is just a solid starting point. You might drop it down to $50 or $25 if things are really tight. You just want to pick a number that represents a slightly painful impulse buy for your specific budget. Most of us don't overspend because we're bad at math. We overspend because buying things feels good in a stressful moment. It's purely emotional. A $50 lunch with a friend might just be a normal social cost. But dropping $120 on a new Apple trackpad you saw on an Instagram ad is an entirely different trigger. By wedging a 24-hour gap between seeing the item and actually paying for it, you kill the emotional rush. The excitement fades out. You wake up the next morning and realize you don't actually care about a new trackpad at all. That money stays safe in your account. That simple pause saves you from yourself. We all know the standard advice about skipping daily coffee. You probably roll your eyes when someone tells you a $5 latte is ruining your financial future. But looking for easy alternative swaps isn't really about giving up things you love. It actually means finding a less expensive version of a daily habit. If you grab lunch from a restaurant every single day at work, that bill climbs fast. You might try prepping your meals at home for just 1 week to see the actual cash difference. Or keep going to your favorite sandwich spot, but just skip the side of chips and the fountain drink. A tiny choice like that feels totally painless in the moment. Over a whole year, those missing chips add up to hundreds of dollars staying right in your pocket. People hate feeling restricted. When you swap a high-cost habit for a cheaper one, you still get the core experience. You just stop leaking extra cash around the edges. Every dollar you plug up right there gets sent straight to your target number. You can only squeeze so much blood from a stone when it comes to small daily expenses. Eventually, you have to look at the 3 giant craters where most of your paycheck actually goes. Almost everyone spends the vast majority of their money on housing, transportation, and food. Trimming $3 off a lunch order is nice, but if you really want to cross that $100,000 finish line faster, you need to rethink the massive monthly bills. A lot of folks feel totally trapped by their rent or car payments. They assume those numbers are just set in stone forever. But treating those big categories as flexible choices completely changes the math of your life. Let's say you rent an apartment by yourself and pay $1,500 every single month. Your lease is about to run out. Instead of just blindly signing the renewal paper, you have a real chance to ask a hard question. Could you bring in a roommate for the next 12 months? Or maybe move 15 minutes further away from town? If moving slightly further out saves you $500 a month, that choice transforms your financial trajectory. Keeping an extra $500 a month from your housing budget feels like hitting a turbo button. You don't have to work extra hours to get that money. You just change where you sleep at night. A lot of people brush off moving because packing boxes sounds awful. But when you redirect $500 a month straight into your savings, it absolutely changes the reality of your future. Doing something like that early on cuts years off your timeline. Once you tackle the rent question, turn that exact same spotlight onto your driveway. Cars drag down so many good budgets, you might be paying a massive premium just to drive a certain brand. Or maybe you just never bothered to check if your auto insurance rate is actually fair. You can easily compare insurance offers from different companies online right now. Finding a better deal might knock $150 off your monthly expenses in about 20 minutes of work. That money just quietly stays in your bank account every month from then on. It is a one-time effort that pays you a permanent dividend. Sometimes a quick insurance check just isn't enough to fix the math. You might look at your driveway and realize that high monthly car payment is choking your progress. Selling a brand new vehicle to buy a reliable used car feels like a step backward to a lot of people. We tie so much of our personal identity to what we drive, but trading down on a car frees up hundreds of dollars every single month. You take all that extra cash and throw it right at your wealth target. Making choices like this does not mean you have to live a miserable, cheap life, There is a massive gap between being painfully cheap and being highly intentional. Cheap people hate spending money on anything at all. Intentional people gladly spend money, but only on things they actually care about. They aggressively cut costs on the stuff that doesn't matter to them. When you get deeply intentional about your cash, your entire mindset shifts. You stop feeling like a victim of your bills. You finally step into the driver's seat of your own financial life. Step 4, automate your savings. We all start new financial plans riding a massive wave of motivation. You feel totally fired up for the first 2 weeks. Then real life hits hard. You get tired, your kid gets sick, or your boss yells at you. Motivation always runs out when you actually need it most. Author James Clear wrote in his book Atomic Habits that building a solid routine shouldn't rely on willpower. You want to build a quiet system in the background so the right choice just happens naturally. You never even have to think about it. Behavioral studies show a fascinating pattern with money. People who set up systems to pay themselves first hit their targets way more often than manual savers. A manual saver looks at what is left over at the end of the month and tries to save it, but life always creates an emergency to eat up that loose cash. An automatic saver pulls the money out the exact second their paycheck hits. You completely remove human weakness from the equation. It is the closest thing to a cheat code for money. Your brain burns energy every single time you make a choice about money. You face dozens of tiny financial decisions before lunch. Should you buy the coffee? Should you upgrade your software? If you try to manually decide how much to save every week, you will eventually make the wrong call. We almost always cave in when left to our own devices on a bad day. Setting up an automatic transfer plan takes that weight right off your shoulders. You can usually do this directly through your employer's payroll system, or you just log into your bank and tell it to move the money every payday. Let's say you take home $2,000 every 2 weeks. You might set up a rule that instantly moves $400 straight into a separate account. You never see that money sitting in your main checking balance. You never feel tempted to spend it on a new jacket. You learn to live entirely on the remaining $1,600 without even missing the rest. That one totally boring setup guarantees you will save $800 every single month. Everything breaks down if you quit your plan after 3 months. Step 5, the power of time and patience. The final piece of this entire process actually requires zero skill at all. It just demands something most people severely underestimate. You need time. Growing your net worth feels completely different from almost everything else we do in life. Most daily tasks give you instant feedback. If you step up to hit a golf ball and swing poorly, the ball drops right into the water. You instantly know your swing was bad. Your brain gets an immediate signal that something needs to change. But wealth building hides the results from you for a really long time. You can do everything right today and see absolutely zero change in your bank account tomorrow. That massive delay between your daily effort and your final result drives people totally crazy. You feel like you are pushing a giant boulder into a dark tunnel. You cannot see the progress at all. Because of that brutal blind spot, people panic and assume the system is broken. You will undoubtedly see people follow every single step perfectly for a full year. They will track their numbers, build rare skills, cut their big expenses, and automate the whole thing. And then they will look at their net worth after 12 months and feel completely crushed. The number just won't look big enough yet. They will convince themselves the boring path simply does not work for them. So they abandon the whole quiet system and go back to hunting for a magic lottery ticket. This happens all the time. When you start from absolute zero, expecting to hit $100,000 in just 1 year, usually ends in tears. A much more realistic timeline puts that victory somewhere between 4 and 7 years. You hear stories about someone doing it in 8 months because a crazy side hustle went viral. Those stories get all the clicks online. But banking your whole future on catching lightning in a bottle is a terrible strategy. Real life usually demands a much slower, quieter grind. It takes genuine grit to keep going when the numbers move slowly. You might feel completely exhausted just thinking about waiting 5 whole years to reach your goal. It sounds like an eternity when you were standing at the starting line. But here is the one truth you cannot escape. Those next 5 years are going to pass no matter what you decide to do today. The clock never stops ticking. The only real question is where you will be standing when that time runs out. You can look at your bank account 5 years from now and see $100,000 sitting there. Or you can look at it and see the exact same zero you see right now. You will either feel the quiet relief of financial security or the exact same stress you carry today. You get to pick your ending right now. Nobody ever promised this stuff would be thrilling or glamorous. The actual work of getting rich is usually incredibly boring. It is just waking up, doing the quiet work, and ignoring the noise. If you want to dive deeper into exactly how to structure your daily habits to lock in this kind of wealth, hit the subscribe button for more breakdowns just like this. You don't need a golden ticket to change your family's future. You just need to outlast everyone else who quits when things get boring. The quiet path actually works if you give it enough room to breathe. When you finally hit that six-figure target, the heavy daily stress completely melts away. You realize you never needed to be the smartest person in the room or find the perfect stock. You just had to be the most stubborn person on the block. The math always protects you if you let the system run long enough. Every time you automate a transfer or pass on a random purchase, you actively buy back a tiny piece of your future freedom. It stacks up painfully slowly at first, and then it happens all at once. You stop worrying about unexpected bills because you built a thick wall of cash between you and disaster. Start by just finding your daily target number tonight. Let the rest of the habits fall into place, one step at a time. You already have what it takes. Just let the boring magic work.